Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna devotees, Danvat Pranam, Alga Srila Prabhupada Nikadite. जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्तवृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्तवृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्तवृंद. Today we are reading Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, the later pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, first chapter and the text 1. Even a person with no knowledge can immediately acquire all knowledge simply by the benediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, I am praying to the Lord for his causeless mercy upon me. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Text 3. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madana Mohana. I am lame and ill-advised. Yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. Text 4. In a temple of jewels in Vrindavana, underneath a desire tree, Sri Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. Text 5. May Gopinathji, who attracts all the gopis with the song of his flute, and who has begun the most melodious rasa dance on the bank of Yamuna in Vamsivata, be merciful upon us. Text 6. All glories unto Sri Gaurahari, who is an ocean of mercy. All glories unto you, the son of Sachi Devi, for you are the only friend of all fallen souls. Text 7. All glories unto Lord Nityananda and Advaita Prabhu, and all glories unto all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, headed by Srivasa Thakura. Text 8. I have previously described in synopsis the Adi Lila initial pastimes, which have already been fully described by Vrindavana Dasa Thakura. Text 9. I have therefore given only a synopsis of those incidents, and whatever specifics were to be related have already been given in that synopsis. Text 10. To describe the unlimited pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not possible, but I now wish to relate the chief incidents and give a synopsis of those pastimes occurring at the end. Text 11 and 12. I shall describe only in synopsis that portion which Vrindavana Dasa Thakura has described very elaborately in his book Chaitanya Mangala. Whatever incidents are outstanding, however, I shall later elaborate. Text 13. Actually, the authorized compiler of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Sri Vrindavana Dasa, the incarnation of Vyasadeva. Only upon his order am I trying to chew the remnants of food that he has left. Text 14. Placing his lotus feet upon my head in great devotion, I shall now describe in summary the Lord's final pastimes. Text 15. For 24 years, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at home, and whatever pastimes he performed during that time are called the Adi Lila. Text 16. At the end of his 24th year, in the month of Magha, during the fortnight of waxing moon, the Lord accepted the renounced order of life, sannyasa. Text 17. After accepting sannyasa, Lord Chaitanya remained within this material world for another 24 years. Within this period, whatever pastimes he enacted are called the Sesha Lila, or the pastimes occurring at the end. Text 18. The final pastimes of the Lord occurring in his last 24 years are called Madhya, middle, and Antya, final. And all the devotees of the Lord refer to his pastimes according to these divisions. Text 19. For 6 years of the last 24, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled all over India, from Jagannath Puri to Bengal and from Cape Comorin to Vrindavana. Text 20. All the pastimes performed by Lord in those places are known as Madhya Lila, and whatever pastimes were performed after that are called Antya Lila. Text 21. The pastimes of the Lord are therefore divided into three periods: the Adi Lila, Madhya Lila, and Antya Lila. Now I shall very elaborately describe the Madhya Lila. Text 22. For 18 continuous years, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at Jagannath Puri, and through his personal behavior instructed all the living entities in the mood of devotional service. Text 23. Of these 18 years at Jagannath Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent 6 years with his many devotees. By chanting and dancing, he introduced the loving service of the Lord. Text 24. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent Nityananda Prabhu from Jagannath Puri to Bengal, which is known as Gauda Desa. And Lord Nityananda Prabhu overflooded that country with the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Text 25. Sri Nityananda Mahaprabhu is by nature very much inspired in rendering transcendental loving service to Lord Krishna. Now, being ordered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he distributed this loving service anywhere and everywhere. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Madhya. Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna, everybody. So we are starting the Madhya Lila today. It's a nice description. It's a very brief section today. Primarily talking about 2-3 sections, giving an overview of how the structure of Chaitanya Charitamrita is there, like that primarily. So we'll go through that. So remember in the Adilila, what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the 2 volumes of Adilila, he completed was all the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya till 24 years of age. Actually, even this is going to tell in this verses today, I think. Let us go through. Yeah. So then now is supposed to describe in Madhya Lila and Antya Lila is supposed to describe the later half of the Lord Chaitanya's life, the entire 24 hours, 24 years. Totally, Lord Chaitanya stayed on this planet for 48 years. Out of 48 years, 24 years was before sannyas, that is described in Adi Lila. Now, other 24 years will be described in Madhya Lila and Antya Lila. But however, what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami does is, he was very, very advanced age at this time, it seems, when he's writing this Chaitanya Charitamrita. Is a plus 90 plus years, basically. That's why we heard in the Adi Lila some of the chapters how his hands were shaking. He was not sure whether he will complete like that. So, he was not sure whether he's going to live till completing everything or not. So what he did is just took the first 2 chapters of Madhya Lila and he completely described brief of everything is going to describe in both Madhya Lila and Antya Lila. That means whole Lord Chaitanya's next 24 years of life, he describes in 2 chapters in synopsis form. Then he elaborates again from 3rd chapter onwards of Madhya Lila, he elaborates the rest of the pastimes. That's a brief idea of that idea of the structure to remember. Then we'll go through verses. Some of this is again described in the verses, but I just wanted to give you an overview. So now, first set of verses, his offering is obeisances. Text 1 is basically saying, is describing the glories of Lord Chaitanya. What is the glories of Lord Chaitanya? Even if a person with no knowledge, he can immediately acquire all knowledge simply by the benediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is the merciful nature of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's why he's praying for his causeless mercy. Now, next he offers obeisances to both Nityananda Prabhu and Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna Chaitanya. He compares them to be like sun and moon, and they resonate simultaneously, because Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, they're simultaneously on this planet, right? So he's comparing them to me having both sun and moon simultaneously on the planet like that. And the horizon of Gauda Desa means Bengal area. And they came to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and give benediction to everyone without restrictions, without any criteria or qualification like that. So these are all till 7th verse is basically offering obeisances and prayers to Lord Chaitanya and other associates of Lord Chaitanya, and even we'll see other deities also. Now here he is offering obeisances to Radha Madan Mohana. Radha Madan Mohana, maybe we discussed before, I don't remember. Yeah, Vrindavan has three main deities. One is Sambandha, one is Abhideya, one is Prayojana deities. Sambandha deity is Radha Madan Mohana, which was worshipped by our Sanatan Goswami. And then Radha Govinda was a Abhideya deity, which was worshipped by Rupa Goswami. And then Gopinath, Radha Gopinath is the Prayojana deity that is worshipped by, I forgot who is that, Raghunath Goswami? I think it's Raghunath Goswami. If anybody remembers, please share. Yeah, I think it's Raghunath Goswami. So basically, many of you might know the terms Sambandha, Videya, and Prayojana. Sambandha means Vedic knowledge. When Lord Chaitanya in the Adlila, when he was meeting the Mayavadi sannyasis in Vanaras or Varanasi, that time he summarized the whole Vedic knowledge with these three terms. He said, Sambandha Gnan, Abhidaya Gnan, Prayojana Gnan. Sambandha Gnan means knowledge of a relationship with Krishna. Abhidaya means how to act in that relationship, like by performing devotion service. And then Prayojana Gnan means what happens when you act in devotion service, what is the result of achieving perfection, like that. So those are the deities corresponding to them. So he's first praying to Radha Madan Mohan. So that how he's saying, I am lame and ill-advised, yet Radha Madan Mohan are my directors, and the lotus feet are everything to me. In fact, when we do our parampara prayers, right, for Vyasa pujas of spiritual masters, our previous acharyas, disappearance day, like that, then we sing the pranam mantra of the Sambandha deity, Abhidaya deity, and present deity also at that time. So no lot of verses today don't have any purports. There are only hardly one or two verses that have purport, I think. So we'll go through them. So now text 4 now is referring to Radha Govinda. This is the Abhideya deity who is worshipped by Rupa Goswami in a temple of jewels in Vrindavan. Underneath a desire tree, Radha Govinda are served by their most confidential associates. And where are they sitting? They're sitting upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisance unto them. Like that is praying. So now, next one is praying to Prayojana deity, Gopinathji. May Gopinathji, what is the specialty of Gopinathji? He attracts all the gopis. With what? With the song of his flute. And who has begun the most melodious rasa dance on the bank of the Yamuna and Vamsivada. Be merciful upon me. He is praying for the mercy of Radha Gopinath deity, also Prayojana deity. So now, text 6. Now he's praying to, again back to Lord Chaitanya. He started with Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda and came back to Lord Chaitanya. All glories unto Sri Gaurahari, who is an ocean of mercy. That's why he's glorifying him. And all glories unto you, the son of Sachidevi, means Lord Chaitanya only, because you are the friend of all fallen souls. So there are two aspects here. One is an ocean of mercy. That means he has mercy. Now, second is that mercy to him he gives is a friend of all fallen souls. For every even fallen souls also he gives mercy. That's a good thing. That's a beautiful description of the Supreme Lord actually. I heard that there was some Christian church pastor or somebody who wrote a book, it seems, analyzing these facts. Why is everybody suffering in this world? So he thought, is Lord all merciful? Oh, maybe he's merciful, but maybe he doesn't have capacity to help everybody. Like that he was considering, it seems. Or maybe he has capacity to help everybody, but maybe he's not merciful. That's why that's the ignorance when somebody doesn't have the knowledge of our Vedic scriptures. So now we understand Lord is merciful and Lord is also capable of delivering everybody and is equal to everybody and is favorable to everybody and is actually more than equal to everyone, meaning he tries to deliver everybody, even demons also, like that we hear from our scriptures. We can understand that. So that's what is glorifying Lord Chaitanya. Next verse, he says, all glories to Lord Nityananda and Advaita Prabhu, the two other associates of Lord Chaitanya. And also, all glories unto all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, headed by Srivas Thakur. When we say Panchatattva mantra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, we say, right? That's what this verse is talking about. Now, text 8. So now he's saying, after paying obeisances, he's going to briefly glorify Vrindavan Das Thakur, who is the author of Chaitanya Bhagavat. You probably might have noticed this is like a refrain. In fact, in so many chapters is glorifying the previous author, Chaitanya Bhagavat author, which is Vrindavan Das Thakur. I mentioned earlier that is usually unheard of in academic circles. Generally, in academic circles, it seems, I don't have so much experience. I heard it from devotees only. Apparently, in academic circles, when professors are there in a college or university like that, they always compete with each other, it seems. They don't say this professor is better than me, like that. Never. So they always have a different opinion, different view, like that, it seems. But then here we can see how Vaishnava others, they respect previous others, they glorify previous others more than their own work, actually. So that's what is going on here all again. So he's saying, I have previously described in synopsis the Adrila, the initial past tense. Initial past tense means past tense till 24 years of Lord Chaitanya, till he took sannyas. So which have already been fully described by Vrindavan Das Thakur. Because Vrindavan Das Thakur described fully, that's why therefore given only synopsis of those incidents. And then some specifics also he gave along with the synopsis, he's saying what are specifics he wanted to give. Now text 10, still most of the verses don't have purports. So I'm just explaining whatever I can understand from these things. Yeah. Oh, actually, there's not even a single verse with purports, looks like in today's section. I thought at least one or two maybe having it. Okay, not even one. So basically, yeah, 10th verse, right? Okay. He's describing how Supreme Lord's pastimes, even Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, are unlimited. So it's impossible to describe all of them. So that's why he is choosing to describe some chief incidents and also give a synopsis of those pastimes occurring at the end, it seems. That means he's talking about the pastimes that are occurring at the later half of Lord Chaitanya's life, after the sannyas, taking sannyas like that. Now text 11 to 12. One second, I'll open that so I can see the verse also. Yeah. So these later pastimes are called Sheshalila. So maybe, yeah, when it comes to next verse, I'll tell. Yeah. Maybe Lila, right? Sheshalila. I'll introduce the term Sheshalila. Basically, that pastimes of Lord Chaitanya till 24 years, till he took sannyas, are called Adlila, right? So rest of the pastimes from after taking sannyas till the end of his life in this planet are called Seshalila. That means later pastimes in English terminology. So this Seshalila again is divided into two subsections. One is Madhya Lila, that the first six years of that 24 years. And then rest 18 years are described in Antalila of these books. Because we'll go into the detail again in this coming up verses. So I'm purposely describing few times so you get used to that terminology and understand it. Now text 11 to 12, I shall describe only in synopsis. So again, he's saying that Vrindavan Thakur already elaborated everything. So I'll describe it in synopsis, whatever he described already, elaborately in his book. Remember, his book is called Chaitanya Mangala originally, and later they renamed it to Chaitanya Bhagavat, like that. So now, whatever incidents are outstanding, that means whatever incidents are very, very significant, or some things are not described in Vrindavan Thakur, those he will elaborate. Krishnadas Kaviraj, because that is the original purpose. One of the main purposes he wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita, right? Some later pastimes of Lord Chaitanya were not described by Vrindavan Das Thakur. That is why he's going to describe. Oh, by the way, another thing, the Adilila pastimes, if you remember in Adilila, we were discussing how Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wrote this based on the diaries of other devotees. Like Adilila pastimes are from Murari Gupta, one of the physician who was a associate of Lord Chaitanya. From his diaries he wrote, and the later pastimes, this Sheshalila, are from Swarup Damodar's diary primarily. Because Lord Chaitanya primarily resided in Jagannath Puri during the next later pastimes of his life, where Murari Gupta was not there. Okay, that's the other thing to note. Now his text 13 is saying, actually the authorized compiler of the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, still glorifying Vrindavan Das Thakur. And he glorifies him as the incarnation of Vyasdev. In fact, that is the reason the book was renamed as Bhagavat, Chaitanya Bhagavat, because Krishna Dvayapana Vyasa wrote Bhagavatam. So, because this Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote Chaitanya pastimes, they call it Chaitanya Bhagavat, like that. And only upon his orders, whose orders? Upon Vrindavan Das Thakur orders, I am trying to chew the remnants of food that is left. That means he's considering, he's describing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya as the prasadam left by Vrindavan Das Thakur, like that. Such a humble mood, like that. Now, he's saying that placing his lotus feet, Vrindavan Das Thakur's lotus feet, upon my head in great devotion, I shall now describe in summary the Lord's final pastimes. So he wants to describe Lord's final pastimes in summary. Remember why summary? Because I mentioned that because he's in an advanced stage, so he was not sure whether he's going to survive to describe everything elaborately. Thus, he wanted to make sure at least the devotees like us, all of us, have at least the full account of the pastimes, even though they're not elaborate. But then he had a time to elaborately describe. By Krishna's mercy, he described it for us. So this is the transition verse. Going to next section. Next section is summarizing what we discussed. What is Adi Lila, what is Shesha Lila, what is Madhya Lila, what is Antya Lila, like that is discussing from here to 23rd verse. Basically, this is like revision what we discussed, but we can go through that. Basically, for 24 years, first 24 years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at home. Where was that home? That was in Navadip, that time, Bengal. And then whatever pastimes he performed during that time are called the Adilila. That's how they referred in this Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, at the end of his 24th year, specifically described in the month of Magha, it seems, Lord Chaitanya accepted the renounced order of life, sannyasa. Remember, I told you up to 24 years before Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, that's what he's talking about. Then after accepting sannyas, that is at the end of the 24 years, Lord Chaitanya remained within his material world for another 24 years. Total of 48 years, Lord Chaitanya was on this planet. So this is the later 24 years. Within this later 24 years, whatever pastimes he enacted are called the Sheshalila, or pastimes occurring at the end, or the later pastimes we called it earlier. So this is the Sheshalila we talk. That means first 24 years Adilila, second 24 years Sheshalila. Now, the final pastimes of the Lord occurring in his last 24 years are called Madhya, middle, and Antya, final. All the devotees of the Lord refer to these pastimes according to these divisions. So within this second 24 years, right, the first 6 years are described as Madhya Lila. He will describe in coming up verse again. And then later, last 18 years of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life are described in Antya Lila. Now, that's where it's going. For 6 years of last 24 years, that means this is the first 6 years of the 24. That means after sannyas, immediately started preaching by traveling for 6 years. He traveled all over India, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, from Jagannath Puri to Bengal, and from Cape Cameroon to Vrindavan, like that. Sometimes this is also referred as like South India tour, like that is also referred. So this is the first period. All the pastimes performed in those places. Which places? during the traveling of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are known as Madhya Lila. So first 6 years of the second 24 years are described in Madhya Lila. And then what are performed after that? Performed after that, that means after the first 6 years after sannyas, that means what is left out of 24 minus 6 is 18. The last 18 years is called Antya Lila. Now, the pastimes of the Lord are therefore divided into 3 parts: Adi Lila, Madhya Lila, Antya Lila. Now I shall very elaborately describe the Madhya Lila, is saying. So, why is this categorization so important for us? Because he's going to refer to them. And also, when we categorize things, it's usually easy to understand things, easy to remember things. Even if you have to refer to a pastime, if you know where the majority of travel pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are there, we can go to that book and look for them, like that, for example. Or if you want to know Lord Chaitanya's early pastimes, we know they're in Adi Lila, like that. That's way also it's helpful to look at scripture in a broad perspective like that. Even Srimad Bhagavatam, when we look at it, like each canto has what, like that. If you have a broad perspective, when we need to look up one particular pastime, we can easily go back to that. Of course, now we have Veda base, we can search also. But generally, this categorization is helpful for our mind to comprehend things. Now, 22nd verse, for 18 continuous years. So this is talking about after the first 6 years, he went traveling is described, right? That is described in Madhya Lila. Now he's going to Antya Lila. For the 18 continuous years, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at Jagannath Puri. This means remained at Jagannath Puri means like a base, like a, even when travel sannyasis are preaching, they have a base, one place from which they go. The majority of the time they spend like that, right? So in that sense, this is being referred here like that, 18 years. What did he do? He remained there, and through his personal behavior, that means achar, instructed all living entities in the mode of devotion service. So he showed us the example of how to practice as a devotee, number one, and how to engage in relationships with others. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Chaitamrita is considered very practical literature. It not only has philosophy, it has practical instructions on how to deal with Vaishnavas like that also, and how to conduct our life as a devotee. So that he taught it by his personal behavior also, some instructions he gave on devotion service like that. Now he's going to, so this 18 years are the Antya Lila. Within that 18 years, what happened is describing. Of these 18 years at Jagannath Puri, that means these are the last 18 years of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance here. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent 6 years with his many devotees. So this first 6 years of this last 18 years is spent with many devotees. And what did they do? What did he do by spending time with devotees? He gave them Krishna Prema by chanting and dancing. So that's what he did in the first 6 years. So now he's transitioning this to, I don't know why he's not sharing. Maybe it's coming later on. So basically, other 12 years, what happened is Lord Chaitanya spent in almost in seclusion with full ecstasy, experiencing Krishna's Krishna Prema and experiencing Radha's Bhava like that. That maybe it will coming up later on. So, but that will complete the whole section if you cover that. The rest of the 12 years, what happened to that 12 years like that. Now, Lord Chaitanya, this now is transitioning to the preaching done by Lord Chaitanya's associates. That is where this section 24 to 45 is the next section, it seems. So now preaching of Lord Nityananda Prabhu specifically. First we start with Nityananda Prabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent Nityananda Prabhu from Jagannath Puri to Bengal, which is known as Gauda Desa. And Lord Nityananda overflowed that country with the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So one important point to note here is, generally devotees used to come to visit Jagannath Puri, visit Lord Chaitanya in the 4 months of monsoon season from Bengal to Puri. And they attend Radha Yatra, spend time with Lord Chaitanya and go back after 4 months like that. So Nityananda Prabhu, actually Lord Chaitanya instructed Nityananda Prabhu not to come along with them, it seems. Even though he sent them to preaching, right? Sent him to preaching. He asked him not to come. But Nityananda Prabhu doesn't listen. He comes anyway, it seems. That's another thing described. But why he sent Nityananda Prabhu? Why he did not personally go? There's another reason for that. Because he gave the word to, if you remember in Adilila, I think it's coming up maybe also. When he took sannyas, Lord Chaitanya wanted to go to Vrindavan. That time, his mother, specifically Sachidevi, requested him not to go all the way to Vrindavan. She convinced him, stay in Jagannath Puri. Jagannath Puri is as good as Vrindavan. So that way, when devotees from Bengal keep traveling there, so I come to know about you, news about you, like that she requested. Lord Chaitanya, even though he took sannyas, he respected his mother's request in such that for that particular instruction. That's why he kept the base of Jagannath Puri, even though, yeah, he traveled, we heard, right, to other places, but only for some time. Then he made a Jagannath Puri as the central base. Of course, there are other internal reasons for Lord Chaitanya being in Jagannath Puri also. Like we heard about how he has ecstasy, he wants to be in the mood of Radharani, who is in separation from Krishna, like that. So that mood is prominent in Jagannath Puri also. So that's another, there are many reasons like that. So that's another thing we see. So now, yeah, this is talking about Lord Nityananda. That is why, because he could not go out, he wanted Nityananda Prabhu to go all out and travel and preach like that. That's why he instructed him to go to Bengal and preach like that. And Nityananda Prabhu obviously overflooded everyone with Krishna Prema, it seems. So the last verse for today, there are more verses about Nityananda Prabhu. We'll continue tomorrow. This last verse, it says, Nityananda Prabhu is by nature very much inspired in rendering transcendental loving service to Lord Krishna. That means he personally is very inspired to do bhakti, number one. Now, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered him, he distributed this loving service anywhere and everywhere. So this is important. So if you want to share bhakti with someone, we must get fully inspired. Then, actually, Vaishish Prabhu puts something nicely in this context. He says, we're all trying to get a mustard seed of mercy, mustard seed of experience with bhakti. So then whatever we experience, that taste, right? That taste we experience, that overflow of that, whatever we're tasting and is overflowing, coming out, that overflow is what we distribute to others, like that Vaishnav Prabhu says. That's such a nice way of describing it, because it means if I'm not experiencing happiness myself, if I tell somebody, they will not be inspired also. Because if I develop whatever taste I get, I can share with others. So there is a caution here for devotees. Some devotees take this to other extreme, meaning, okay, I need to first become pure devotee. I'll stay work for next 20 years. I'll become pure devotee, then only I'll share with others. That is not the intent of sharing this. The intent is we should be sincere and keep trying to practice bhakti ourselves nicely. And whatever little realization we got, whatever little understanding we got, we can simultaneously share with others. Because by simultaneously sharing with others, whatever we understood a little bit, we'll get the mercy of spiritual master, mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And then that way, we can also, actually it's like a cycle. Our understanding will increase, our realization will increase, our taste will increase, our bhakti will increase, and then we share more, and again, it will increase as bhakti like that. So we can be easily attract the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda Prabhu by sharing whatever little. Even if somebody comes to the temple first time, they hear the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, what is the full mantra, they can share with someone. Their bhakti started and they help somebody. They did some service to holy name. Whenever somebody serves the holy name like that, Nityananda Prabhu mercy will be fully on them like that. Like that. So that's the other aspect here. So now those are two aspects from this verse. Another aspect we'll know later on is that Nityananda Prabhu did not go out and distribute until he got the order from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is glorified in one sense by many devotees. The pastime will come later on, that Nityananda Prabhu, even though he had a capacity to distribute, but until he got the instruction from his master Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did not take action like that on his own, like independent action basically. That's the point here. So, but then once he got an instruction, he will hear more pastimes, how he begged everybody to take up Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's worship like that, and to chant Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's names like that. He begs everybody. So that's a beautiful section. We'll continue. I think Madhya Lila, you'll like it. Lots of beautiful sections coming up. Especially first two chapters is like a summary. So, but later on we'll see elaborate. But at least summary will give some idea what is coming up. Whole Madhya Lila, whole Anta Lila, we'll get quick idea before we go into details. Yeah, we'll pause here. Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita ki jai, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Let's all for our business devotees. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kupasindubhyo cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you so much, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.